Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Iran is facing its most serious unrest in years as nationwide protests are met with brutal force, mass arrests and a sweeping internet shutdown that has plunged the country into an information blackout. European governments, including Poland, are now summoning Iranian diplomats, warning that violence against peaceful demonstrators is unacceptable. As casualties rise, questions grow about the regime's survival strategy, regional consequences, and Iran's ties with Russia and its proxies. Joining me now is Heinz Gärtner. He's Professor of Political Science at the University of Vienna. Professor, welcome to TVP World. Thanks for taking the time.
Good evening.
So, what's the situation so far as we know on the ground in Iran at the moment?
We do have little information, of course, and we had these protests which have been, it seems, violently cracked down. The consequence might be that they're now quelled down and the protests are not as strong as before. And so the security forces seemed to prevail. However, cracking down the protests now does not mean that there remains a potential which might re-emerge sometime later, maybe a few days, maybe after a few weeks, maybe 1 year. But the reasons are not solved. So one reason is the economic situation, and the regime seems not to be able to resolve the economic hardship of the people, especially the middle class. So the alternative, of course, the protests were, of course, first of all, because of the economic grievances. And since the regime cannot resolve it, the protests will move on to the political issues.
I understand.
So
Professor, I'll come to all of those issues in just a second. But before we get there, one question. Is this protest different to the ones that have come before? One gets the impression, although because of the news blackout it's difficult to say for sure, but one gets the impression that this is far more widespread and the feelings are more deeply being reflected and manifested in the violence that is being shown by the regime. What are your thoughts on that?
It is more widespread in the sense that now it encompasses many groups, from business, where it started in the bazaars, the small business organizations and people, including universities, now again also Vienna, and also normal people which feel the economic hardship. In terms of numbers, it's huge, but not as huge, I guess, as it was already in 2022 when we had the Women's Life Freedom movement. But that was mainly, when it comes to the issue, very limited, of course, on women's issues, on the hijab. And now the issue is getting more broader. The security forces seem to be even more violent now.
Now, President Trump has warned the regime that it will take very strong action America will take very strong action against Iran if they don't stop the killings. Now, again, the response of the regime has been difficult to assess, but it seems as though the executions have been that were planned for a few days ago have been put off. It seems as though Iran is willing to talk, with Turkey being a mediator, or certainly Turkey has offered itself as a mediator. How do you read that dynamic?
President Trump, after some threats at the beginning, seems to be a little bit more restrained now. I guess the reason is because he might recognize that he cannot install a different regime. So the opposition is not strong enough. It's not organized enough. The son of the Shah is waiting, but he doesn't have the base and the connection in Iran. So the point, where's the point of intervention? What the US can do, they can conduct some punitive strikes, but not change the political situation. So now it seems that the envoy Witkoff, the Trump's envoy Witkoff, seems to shift the debate again back to the nuclear and missile issue.
So basically the people in Iran are left to protest on their own. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, more or less. But the point is that most of the Iranians and those who protest against the regimes, they do not really want military intervention from outside as well, because that could lead to chaos and nobody knows who will come next. And maybe also some branch of the Revolutionary Guards will take over. So there's no plan and no organization. So, of course, they're left on their own. However, there might be some possibility that they reorganize, and the only support which might help them from outside is to get a better communication system. Communication is, of course, very important.
Now, how does all of this influence Iran's relationships with its proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis in Yemen, and also its relationship with Russia? Iran's investing quite a lot of money in all three of those parties, which it could be spending at home. Do you think that will change as a result of these protests?
It seems that the Arab neighbors of the Gulf states, they do not actively get involved in the protests. So they are not up to a regime change in Iran or to chaos because they want to have stability. Of course, it might do some harm to the relations, neighborly relations in the future, but it did not really so far change the situation, the regional situation.
Yes, but Professor, I'm talking about the money that's being invested by Iran in its proxies, like Hezbollah and the Houthis, and in supporting Russia. And, you know, an Iranian tanker carrying Russian oil has been intercepted just recently. Would the people prefer that Iran spent that money on the domestic front rather than the international front?
It might well be, because all these proxies are very much weakened, from Hamas to Hezbollah, and even the Houthis in Yemen, even less so. Iran recognized that spending more money and delivering some weapon systems will not change the situation of the proxies. And in the past, Iran thought these proxies were the first line of defense. This first line of defense does not exist anymore for Iran. So that's why Iran is more investing in its own missile system than in the proxies. And also, if you hear slogans from the protests, they say no Hamas, no Hezbollah, yes Iran. So they seem to request that Iran has a priority on not the support of the proxies, which have very little value or less value now for Iran itself.
Right, so we shall see if that has any effect. Now, you know, if, for example, the United States were to kidnap Ayatollah Khamenei, or Khamenei finds his positions unsustainable and he flees to Moscow, for example, it's likely that the Revolutionary Guard would take over because they're extremely powerful, of course, in that country. That simply turns it from a theocratic dictatorship to a military dictatorship. Nothing's likely to change for the people. Is that a fair assessment?
That's true. The Iranian political system is much more complex than the one in Venezuela. So you have many security systems. You have a deep state. Also, the Iranians already created a commission which would replace the supreme leader if something happens to him, because he's already very old. So that would be a collective leadership for a transition. And also you have also the army and the Revolutionary Guards, the Expeditionary Council, the Guardian Council, the Security Council, the Parliament, the President. You cannot, as regime change has to do so much, not just remove the leader. And I don't think that the Russians would take him. So the Russians, I didn't see any offer that the Russians would accept Khamenei if he wants to go abroad, even though I doubt he wants to.
Well, there were rumours floating around a few days ago that he was being offered asylum in Moscow, unsubstantiated, I must say, but they did exist at the time. They've gone quiet, as many of these things do. So this actually paints a rather complex picture. Is there anything that the outside world can do to support the Iranian protesters and perhaps start the process of some kind of change in that country?
I think there is a bigger picture. The change in Iran might only be possible if the relations between Iran and the US and Iran and Israel will improve. So, because otherwise there will be even more severe sanctions on Iran, more isolation, more grievances for the population. So the most important thing is that the population gets a better life, whether through protests or through reforms. So I don't think that an isolated Iran can really improve the situation of the people. We will see more protests, but I don't think they will be successful in terms of regime change.
Understood. Well, Professor Gärtner, thank you very much indeed for sharing your analysis with our audience. Have a good evening, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.